Okay, I'm back again. Now I'm going to continue from what I was saying last week. So, these spirits that I was talking about last week, they can actually cause harm. And they can actually do stuff to you. They can cause physical harm. And going back to Ephesians 6:12 in the book of Job, which is the main focus here of these videos. Well, the first two chapters were, I think, part of chapter 2. Yeah, right after chapter 2, right after God and Satan have a meeting. Excuse me, the devil comes into heaven, he has a meeting with God, and then Job gets all these boils and stuff. That's how we know that sickness comes from the devil. Well, one of the ways we know. And then you go to chapter 1. Job's bad luck, aka spiritual attacks, didn't happen until Satan and God had a meeting. So we know that Satan did that. And incidentally, Job's statement about the Lord gives and take away was somewhat out of, is ignorant the right word? Like a lack of understanding. But Job didn't understand that it was really Satan who was doing all that. Now God allowed that to happen for whatever reason. And I understand that that Job's fear had a lot to do with that. And I always heard that you attract what you're afraid of. And that actually makes sense because superstitious people or fearful people, they are often pessimistic, and they often profess negative things, which opens doorways to these spiritual attacks. So we know that word is one of the key ways, probably one of the main ways actually. One of the main things that opens doorways to spiritual attacks is words. Negative words and negative statements, even if they are meant for positivity. And even if they're meant for, an expression or a figure of speech. Because sometimes we say stuff without even realizing that it's what we're doing. It's possible. Like, sometimes we say stuff out of frustration, and this happened to me recently. So I say something out of frustration for weeks, and then it happens. So I decided I'm not gonna do that anymore. Gotta watch what I'm just not gonna say anymore. So, like I said, moving on to Ephesians 6:12. These same spirits, types of spirits that are behind haunted houses and paranormal activity, sleep paralysis, and even night terrors, really bad nightmares. Which, by the way, sleep paralysis, whoever named it sleep paralysis and night terrors, I believe that they was named by someone who does not even believe in the supernatural. Someone who does not believe in the spiritual. I'm assuming this is the only thing that makes sense. Was that somebody who didn't believe in the spiritual, experienced sleep paralysis and assumed that it was some kind of medical condition and decided to go see a doctor about it. And that is how it got its name. That is my opinion. I do not know this for sure. I do not have any proof to back it up. But it is a reasonable assumption because I know otherwise that sleep paralysis is a spiritual attack and it can become demonic oppression. But it is regarded as a chronic sleep condition where your mind wakes up, where your body wakes up, where your mind, let's see, how is it like you kind of wake up before your body does? Yeah, that's how it is. But I have a problem with that. Number one, when I experienced sleep paralysis, only once, so I'd say 10, 11 years ago. I didn't exactly mark out the date. I really didn't think anything of it. This was before I knew that it was called sleep paralysis. I knew that it was supernatural, and I knew that God could help me. But that's about it. I never once crossed my mind to tell my doctor about it because I knew it wasn't a medical issue. Even back then. I don't think I knew that it was called sleep paralysis until maybe a year or two later. I was researching paranormal from the perspective of a Christian, because I believe that we need to recognize spiritual attacks, the demonics, so we can know how to defend against that. And that's when I came across these videos about sleep paralysis, and I learned what they were, and I learned what they are. I learned the truth about them. So, I stopped sleep paralysis with the name of Jesus, basically, which actually does not do any good unless you have full and complete confidence in the name of Jesus. And it will not work if you are afraid. So, and really, when you are a true Christian, when you're really close to God, you have no reason to be afraid. So, there's just no reason to be afraid of the devil when you're a Christian, because we know that the devil is defeated. We know that the spiritual kingdom of darkness has been defeated. Jesus gave us authority over that, and they are defeated. They are under our feet. So, we should not be afraid of the paranormal. Excuse me. Oh, and incidentally, some people might be skeptical about the idea that So anyways, we know that demons can wreak havoc, and we know that demons can create havoc and chaos and calamity in your life. We know that they can create sickness and disease and death, unexpected death. There are things that there are three main things. Two main things that initiate a spiritual attack. One is God's plan for you, and the other is negative words or negative statements. And I believe I already went over that in the last video, so there is no need to go over that again. So, these spiritual attacks can become demonic oppression, like sleep paralysis and night terrors, when it's happening over and over and over again. You see, I sort of lucked out in the sense that I was already a Christian when I had my first sleep paralysis. What am I talking about? My first? It's my only, really. When I had a sleep paralysis attack, I happened to already be saved. I happened to already be a Christian. I happened to have been a Christian already. And although I didn't really know much about it, I knew to put my trust in Jesus, to put my trust in God. I was meditating on Jesus, because I can't move, I can't talk. I was meditating on Jesus, and after a minute, maybe not even that, it was gone. This was also before I knew about the witching hour superstition, because which that is a lie. Like I said in my last video, the devil has no ownership of 3 o'clock in the morning. He is mocking the hour of prayer. The ninth hour of the day is when Jesus was crucified. It is also the hour of prayer, and I think it's also called the holy hour. So the devil is mocking the devil is mocking God. I believe the devil has created some circumstances around that to make people, because superstitious people will make negative confessions that open doorways to paranormal activity to happen at 3 o'clock in the morning. Excuse me, allergies. They're fighting allergies. I'm going to overcome them in the name of Jesus. So, I believe that's how a lot of superstitions came into existence. The devil created some bad luck, and so that people would get around people that he knew would be superstitious, and would start confessing that from now on, that number is bad luck. This number is cursed. 3 o'clock in the morning is now cursed. People who go around confessing that 3 o'clock in the morning is the witching hour, the devil's hour, and all that stuff, are opening doorways to experience demonic activity at 3 o'clock in the morning. Whereas people who know better, who don't say stuff like that, who go around saying stuff against it, would not experience anything. So, I mean, maybe if somebody like around them, maybe in that same house, said something to that effect, and nothing was ever said against it, someone who's not as superstitious would probably experience paranormal activity while someone who is. Or maybe the doorway was caused by someone who was superstitious to begin with, and nothing was ever done about it, nothing was ever said against it. So, I have a theory, although I can't really prove it, that the sleep paralysis attack that I experienced was at 3 o'clock in the morning. Stuffy nose. Was at 3 a.m. But because I didn't know about the witching hour at the time, I didn't think to look at my watch. And that, like I said, also I didn't know about sleep paralysis either, so I didn't think much of that. So, when you know how to handle sleep paralysis, because you're a Christian, when you know how to put your trust in God, it's a flea. And spiritual attacks, especially at the paranormal level, do not bother you. They're not traumatizing. They probably would have been more traumatizing if I didn't know what to do about it. And it probably would have became demonic oppression and would have continued on to happen to me to this very day. About 10, 11 years later. I don't remember the exact date. I didn't exactly mark it down. After it was over, I just shrugged it off and went back to sleep. So he just shrugged it off like whatever and went back to sleep. Didn't think much of it, because what you acknowledge, you give power to. Although I didn't. That's not why I did that though. But I understand that now. I think at that time I was like, well, that was weird. Oh well. We go back to then I went back to sleep. Because I knew that everything was under control. Now I have the understanding that what you acknowledge, you give power to. So we know that spiritual attacks can be paranormal related. They can be circumstantial. They can be of the mind. And they can be of the emotions. And I guess I'm going to have to go with the emotional part in the next video.